Welcome to For the Love of Nature, a podcast where we tell you everything you need to know about nature and probably more than you wanted to know. My name is Fawks, Lapole.
And I'm Katy Holloway, and welcome to our season breaks.
Yeah.
So
we finished. We wouldn't forget about you guys.
Thankfully, we did not this time either. So we just finished season 2, and we're prepping, writing scripts and everything, getting ready for season 3 because Laura's gonna pop out a baby soon.
So we're just trying to get it done.
Yeah, trying to get as much done as we possibly can so that she has some time off. So hopefully as we gear up for season 3, don't forget about us. We'll be putting out some content in between the break. So be sure to check all of that out. So we wanted to provide you today with a mini episode.
Yeah. Something to get you through the dry spell.
And what was the actual theme for this one? Do you remember? We're going to be talking about mimicry, but do you have the actual theme for it?
It's that animals have developed some incredible ways to mimic other organisms and objects.
What Laura said. So we're going to go ahead and skip the nature news because it is a mini episode, and we're just going to dive right into our mimicry animals here. Laura, did you want to go first?
Sure, and I was just going to say, I was going to define mimicry for anyone who doesn't know real quick. So according to Encyclopedia Britannica, it's a phenomenon characterized by the superficial resemblance of two or more organisms that are not closely related taxonomically. So basically, their resemblance can be the way they look, the way they sound, the way they smell, the way they behave, even like their biochemistry, but they are not at all related. There's like 3 main types that you might hear about, called Batesian, which is when they look the same, but usually one of them is like an undesirable, or like, you know, they might be poisonous or venomous or something like that. The other one's just trying
the undesirable.
trying to fake them out. There's Müllerian, which is when they have like warning colors, also known as aposematic coloration. And then there's self-mimicry, which is when one body part mimics another, like fake eyes and stuff. Camouflage is like kind of considered mimicry. It's called like crypsis mimicry. I feel like I was reading very conflicting things, but I'm going to count camouflage.
Because I also found another type of mimicry that I'm going to be talking about for both of mine. And I hadn't heard about this term before. So I found it on several different sites, but I don't ever remember learning about it in undergrad. So
yeah.
May or may not be a thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll kick things off. The first organism that I wanted to cover was the orchid mantis.
Oh, that's a good one.
Love mantises, but the orchid mantis is in particular like just whoa. So let me share my screen with you all so that you can see how amazing they are.
For those of you seeing the video portion of this. Listening to the podcast, sorry.
So, for those of you that can see the video, everyone else, you need to Google an orchid mantis. They look like a flower. Their legs look like petals. Their little eyes are like really slanty, like seeds, and also like everything about them just says flower.
Yeah, really does.
So female giant.
Oh goodness, that's
tiny
such
little guy.
Yeah, that's so different though.
Yes.
Wow.
So, a little bit about the orchid mantis. They're white with pink accents. Their body parts resemble petals. The females are 6 to 7 centimeters, while the guys are only 2.5. They're so tiny. Like all mantises, they're predatory insects, and the orchid mantises live in rainforests of Southeast Asia and Indonesia. So what makes their mimicry special? Well, you know, I was talking about all the different types of mimicry, and you can use different types of mimicry for different advantages. But in the case of this mantis, the male and the female use it in different ways. Pretty much. The female uses it to make them a better predator. I literally found a guy who, in 1879, he was a travel writer in Java. He thought he saw... Which is, right, crazy thing about travel writers in 1879.
Yeah. Jeez.
But somebody was lucky. And he thought he saw an orchid eat a butterfly. Like, he was convinced it really was a flower.
Can you imagine, though, being like, what am I tripping on?
Like, yeah, like his account was very much like, I saw this orchid annihilate this butterfly. Like, what country am I? Like, this country is crazy. So that's how good of the mimicry it is. It totally fooled the guy. He thought it was a flower. And that's kind of the whole point. So the Cleveland Museum of Natural History found that, doing a whole bunch of studies, they found that females increased in size over time and gained coloration in order to attract prey, and prey, eat pollinating insects. Males do the exact opposite. They try and be as little and inconspicuous as possible, so that they don't get eaten.
You do not see me.
Yeah. So rather than they want to avoid predators. So they're doing the whole actually camouflage thing. They're a little bit duller in coloration. They're tiny. Meanwhile, the females are as flamboyant and big as they can be to attract pollinators. Which is a really cool way of showing how, usually sexual dimorphism, which is when males and females are different. Mm-hmm. Usually that's for reproductive reasons. This has nothing to do with that.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, normally that is more reproductive than anything.
You just decided to take different outlooks on life strategy. Yeah. One is I am not going to get eaten. The other one is I'm going to do all the eating.
Yeah.
Scientists used to think, and I definitely did before doing all this research, that this was a form of cryptic mimicry, which is where the mantis hides amongst the flowers. Just another form of
it would make sense, yeah.
Right. I was right, they look like an orchid. Not true. This is where it blew my mind. Studies...
Blowed?
It blew my mind. Studies show...
It's blue, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's blue. Okay, sorry. I'm not even half a drink in, but
it's a Friday night.
Yeah, it's a Friday night. I'm trying.
So how studies have shown, though, that the mantises attract insects all on their own by just being a flower. So rather than hide amongst the flowers and, just remain still, this one just
be a flower. Yeah.
Which is really cool, metaphor or outlook on life. You know what? Don't hide amongst the flowers. You be a flower.
But I wonder too if, so with a lot of insects' vision, how they see things differently. I wonder if is it mantises? Mantids. If they put off something that makes them appear.
Great question, Katy, because the scientists have the same one. You're right. Since insects can see differently, there are some insects that do something a little similar. There's these crab spiders that hide in flowers.
Oh, yeah.
And they have ultraviolet on them that looks like flower nectar guides. Mm-hmm. This mantis, no. This one is so... it has nothing different about it. It's taken on what they call a generalized flower look. So... It doesn't actually
As opposed to the specific flower look.
It doesn't look like any specific flower. Because everyone's like, well, what kind of orchid does it look like? None.
Just an orchid.
That's the point.
Yeah.
It's just a flower. So...
Well, yeah, because you would attract more insects that way.
Yeah, of different types. And so this whole thing, it's called aggressive mimicry, which I really like.
Which is what I'm going to be talking about.
Well, there we go. Yeah, I never heard of this either. So aggressive mimicry is what they're doing. And it says that the color, when they did studies, because they even put out little fake mantises out there and messed with them, changed their color, changed their shape, took off some legs, things like that. What seemed to make a difference?
The poor mantids.
they were fake.
Oh, okay. I was geez,
not real ones. No,
just ripping their legs off. And...
These are just models. So color seemed to be way more important than shape when attracting the insects. But to a person, you're if it doesn't really look like a flower. So obviously it needs to look a little bit for when the insects get close. But it's the color that really does it, because apparently it's a concentrated mass of color. And when a bee or something is going around, it's just generally looking for stuff, and it's looking for a specific colored flower usually. As we talked about in our pollinator episode, a lot of insects are attracted to certain colors. Yeah. So it's aha, it's the right color, and look at how big. And so that must mean that there's a lot of food in there, and they just go for it. And only when they get closer do they inspect it, and so the mantis stays very still and has these petal-like legs, and then it's too late. So they
let me go in for a closer look. Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's just, I imagine, because they're saying this concentrated mass of color, I'm just imagining, like, a giant candy bar that would just attract my eye, and I'd be like, yes! And then get really close, and then it turned out not to be that, but I would think that. So...
it always goes back to candy and sugar for you.
I got a sweet tooth, man. I don't know what to say. A giant ice cream cone. So, just to wrap that up, the orchid mantis is the first known insect to mimic an entire flower. Not just a part, the entire flower, because they are a flower, practically.
Interesting.
So that is aggressive mimicry done by the orchid mantis.
Well, I'll just keep going with aggressive mimicry here. So the two that I'm doing, I just told Laura before we started recording, I've actually never heard of either of these two.
I'm excited to see if I have.
So the first one is for aggressive mimicry, is... Oh, wait. I do have a definition of aggressive mimicry. I did find one.
Mine was more vague.
Okay, so it's a form of similarity in which a predator or parasite gains an advantage by its resemblance to a third party.
Okay.
So it's similar, but a little different. All right.
Yeah, because mine said it was aggressive mimicry.
Yeah.
So it's just, there must be different, like, ways they go about it.
Yeah, because, again, I've never heard of the term aggressive mimicry unless our undergrad advisor's rolling right now. Like, yeah, I did teach you that.
I did.
Sorry. All right, so the first one I'm going to be talking about is the death's head hawk moth.
Okay, heard of, but don't know anything about.
Awesome, because I think that that's the most badass name ever.
It is a metal name for sure.
For a moth, it's not...
It'd be like when we talked about how the gypsy moth should be the destroyer moth.
Yes,
the destroyer and the death
head hawk moth.
Totally. Be in a band together.
Be in a band together. Or fight to the death together.
Yeah. Battle Royale.
Yeah. All right, so natural history. Oddly enough, the first bit of natural history I stumbled upon when researching the death's head hawk moth is that adults squeak when they're alarmed.
Oh.
So, first of all, I didn't even know that moths squeaked.
I couldn't either. And I think it really freaked me out if it happened.
Right? Second of all, I wish more people would squeak when they were alarmed. To which our manager Kim's comment, because, she reads over all these, says, challenge accepted. So, yeah, just every time you're alarmed, squeak! So a quick YouTube search if anybody wants to look for it. If you just put in moths squeaking, show a lot of the death's head hawk mouth, which, I promise you, at some point during this episode, I'm going to say hawk mouth. Because
you were almost there right then.
So many times, I'm going to say hawk mouth, hawk moth, hawk moth.
Hawk moth.
Hawk moth. So I think this is something that they're known for because that's all that came up on YouTube or anything if you just search. Simply moth squeaking.
Moth. Yeah.
What's that squeaky moth? It's the death's head's hawk mouth.
That would be a really cute squeak, like.
Well, if you listen to it, it's almost like more like a buzz squeak.
Okay.
Like, because
it can't actually be. I'm sure it's not vocal. I'm sure it's something with its wings or rubbing or something.
It's definitely not vocal. As much as I wish it was a vocal squeak.
Their little mouth.
Would be amazing. Ah, goodness. So anyway, where would you find a squeaking moth? You can find this apparently pretty rare moth in Africa, Asia, and parts of Europe. The name Death's Head Hawkmoth.
You did it.
I knew it. Even writing this, I just called Death Head Hawkmoth. I can't do it. I don't know why. So it refers to 3 different subspecies of moth, all in the Acterotia genus. I don't know. Which is why the habitat distribution range is so big, because it really is 3 separate, species that are in this group. For the sake of research, though, they're all pretty much lumped together, so I'm just going to continue to talk about them as one, but know that I'm talking about 3 separate species. All right, so they range from anywhere from 2 to 8 inches in wingspan, which freaking 8-inch wingspan. I do not know why a moth needs to be that big. Like, and I know science claims
it's not
that
predatory, right?
Well, no, and that's what I know that like science is. Why do we have moths? It's because they're pollinator. But okay, one, I've never seen a moth pollinate anything. I've only seen them fly into my face at night. But 8 inches, that's
to the face would be extreme.
to the face. That's uncalled for. Like,
yeah,
that's
very much reminds me of that short story where like that girl like hurts a moth, and then at night she hears them against her window, and they like
that would be it.
That
would be it. Yeah, that would have to be it, because you figure 8 inches. That's bigger than my face. Like, and
or Allison. She loves it.
Right. One of our friends from undergrad, does not.
We brought
her
up before in our butterfly episode.
Yeah, she's the one that can't take it. Can't take butterflies and moths. But also the entire body is covered with velvet, like a velvety coat, like a lot of moths.
They'd be like smothery. Like it wouldn't be like a butterfly where it's just like a little kiss. This would just be like
right on your face. But it also, so the name Death Head, it gets its name from the tiny skull-like pattern that can be seen on its back.
That's how I've heard of it.
Yeah. And I would say, I don't think I mentioned this later on, but they are like very popular in folklore and stuff. I mean, if you want to like research a crazy animal that has to do like all symbolism, and I mean, as long as people have known or seen that they've existed, people have been like freaked out by them. Because I mean, to be fair,
there's skulls on their back and they're huge.
Yeah, I would be freaked out too, especially like 1600s. You're like, what the heck?
Yeah, definitely like start that rumor like it smothers babies.
Yeah. Smothers babies.
Like anything's plausible when you're talking about an 8-inch moth with skulls on its back in the 1600s.
Sure.
Like,
sure. Oh goodness. But anyway, so the adult only lives up to 6 weeks, which seems like a ripoff for how metal these moths are. Okay, so they're mimicry. This to me is actually really cool. So they have a super sweet appearance, but that's not their mimicry at all. Like a lot of animals, like Laura went over how they rely on visual mimicry. These death moths mimic the smell of bees.
That's cool.
I saw
that was one of the potential, like the biochemistry and that's nuts.
That is so cool. So this allows them to get close to hives without being stung. There they ignore the bees, choosing instead to feed upon the sugary honey stored inside. Hence, this is where like the aggressive mimicry part comes in, to where it's like a parasite kind of thing.
Yeah, taking their honey.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, dude, okay? Like, I get that bees rely on smell, but like...
But come on. Notice?
An 8-inch...
moth?
Like...
You don't notice? No, they haven't... Like, bees have not evolved to be like... something. One of these things are not like the other.
Apparently, yeah, not
at all.
Zero.
Can you just like just imagine
girl's giant, and then just go on about their way?
Yeah, and it's in a beehive. Yeah. Which there's not a whole lot of space in a beehive.
I guess hawk moths are the ones that they've got like wings that go like, are they like down like a V?
Yes.
Okay, so they can.
But scoot, but still, man. I mean, like you said, no critical thinking on the bees' part whatsoever.
It'd just be pushing bees out of the way.
Yeah, essentially, yes. Yeah. Let me through, guys. And you smell like a bee, so no one's gonna bat an eye because they're like, oh, it's just a ginormous bee.
Yeah, it takes like that whole, people say if you act confident, no one will
yeah,
you.
Right?
This is like the height of that.
Yeah, it really
just
is.
act like you belong there. No questions asked.
No questions. That would be the situation for sure. So once inside, the moth uses its proboscis, other name for nose, which is 10 millimeters long, to pierce honeycombs within beehives. Most other hawk moth species have a much longer proboscis, which they usually use to drink nectar, not honey, of course.
It's like that modified tongue nose, I think. Like
yes.
Nose.
Yep. But because of how short the death head is, it makes it fairly unusual. So our definition of aggressive mimicry is a form of similarity in which a predator or parasite gains an advantage by its resemblance to a third party And this, yeah, it's like the chemical thing to it, but this would definitely
that counts.
Qualify. Yeah,
mine was just visual, but it does the same. It's still like taking advantage. Yeah.
So that's my tale of the death head hawk moth.
Very cool. I had
go out on a high note.
I only know what they look like, but I've nothing about them because I think they're on like a lot of stuff. Like I've seen them, but I've never and all sorts of stuff.
But I never knew that was like a real thing. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know it was a real thing because it's Halloween. Like,
right?
But yeah, I mean, and there's like it's in movies and stuff. I think it's in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, I bet you're right.
But that's the symbol. And like, so
on the cover,
and a lot of people have tattoos of
I'm sure
death head. Which, breaking news, I've made an appointment to get my first tattoo. How many times have I talked about this
on
the air? Yes. So I'm there. It's not going to be until like towards the end of the year because I'm going with a very specific artist. I don't want to settle for like he has a style that I like anyway. So I'm biting the bullet. TBD. I know what I want, but I'll let everybody know whenever I actually get it.
Yeah.
So breaking news on
that is breaking. That's awesome,
right? I've been talking about it for so long and how many different episodes. So I was like, you know what?
I'm gonna do
it. Alrighty, what's your second one?
Okay. Second one is a switch for me for a different type of mimicry.
For a second, I thought you were saying it's a switch. I was like something they used to beat children with.
I like that's your first switch. Not a light switch, but like a switch you beat someone with.
We just were talking about the 1600s.
That's true. No, mine is the mimic octopus. Which, octopus, they're never gonna get old. Like, they're amazing in every single way, and this is just another way that they're amazing. I challenge anyone to find out an octopus fact that they don't think is, like, whoa!
Amazing. Yeah.
Don't have bones. Anyway. So, let me share a picture. So the mimic octopus. Before I share the picture, just a little bit of natural history. They live in tropical muddy estuaries in the Indo-Pacific, which, I'm used to thinking about them, like, octopus living in the ocean. This is an estuary, so it's where the river empties into the ocean. So they're kind of like brackishy water. They eat crustaceans and fish. They're brown and white striped under normal circumstances. And they weren't discovered until 1998.
What?
Which I was, I mean, I guess they're that good at mimics. Either that or nobody cared.
Yeah.
Which is sad, because I'm going to tell you why you should, because they're so cool. They're known as the Masters of Disguise. So let me share my screen with you to show you what they look like. Yeah. So the top one is the actual normal-looking octopus. Then the pictures on the left are it mimicking what the pictures on the right actually are.
It's insane. I'm telling you.
They're so, like, and this picture doesn't do it justice. You really have to watch the video. Like, whatever you're doing, stop, look up the video, because that convinces you.
Yeah.
So, a little bit about them and what makes their mimicry special. They're, like I said, they're known as the Masters of Disguise. And so, like all octopi, they're able to almost instantly change color due to special cells called chromatophores. These cells can shrink and expand, which allows more and less color to be seen, changing the overall appearance. And each cell is attached to a nerve for, like, absolute control, rather than it just being like a, like a chameleon where it's like a full body thing. This is every nerve is controlling each cell. Not only that, but not only can they change color, they can also change the texture of their skin, like other octopi. So they can look like rough, they can look smooth, they can look all different things. So if you look up videos of mimicking octopi, sometimes they're not even mimicking anything that you could, like, you're like, what is it mimicking? It looks like a little man, like it's on like two legs running across the bottom. But
like it's late for something. It always looks like it's late.
Looking at you like, what? But in general, it seems that their mimicry is used to avoid predators. So they can mimic, for sure, the pictures that I showed you. They can mimic, and let me share that again as I'm talking about this. They can mimic. Okay, first one, the soulfish, which is a flatfish that is poisonous to be eaten. So it's mimicking poison. The second one down, it's mimicking a lionfish, which is venomous. And the third one down, it's mimicking a sea snake, which is also venomous. So with all of that in mind,
I know things evolve, but at the same time, this also shows the intelligence behind.
Oh yeah, and I'm not even there yet.
Oh goodness.
So it can do those three for sure. Which it is, if you remember what I said at the very beginning, it's one of the types of mimicry called Batesian, which is when they mimic the undesirable. So they're mimicking a poisonous animal or a venomous animal. However, scientists also think it's not, I don't know if there's not evidence or what, but they can also mimic anemones, stingrays, mantis shrimp, feather stars, brittle stars, eels, sea slugs, and jellyfish. Which is an insane amount. It can just be
It's excessive. Yeah, it's excessive.
Yeah. What do I want to be today? And then just change its mind.
Jellyfish.
Yeah. But you were just talking about intelligence, and this is where it gets crazy. So, it's trying to defend itself from predators. So, of course, it's, you'd think it's just a reaction. It's just going to mimic one of these things to defend itself. No, It chooses specific things for specific circumstances. For example, when it's attacked by damselfishes, it mimics a sea snake, which is a known predator of those fish. So they are like, and leave.
That is.
So that's forethought and planning.
Yes, yes. That is how smart these things are.
Yeah. Again, they would take over the world if it was all water.
I kind of wish the world was just full of water.
Just to have octopus overlords.
Overlords, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be benevolent, though. Have you seen them just punching fish?
Yes. Which is amazing. If you want a really good laugh, just Google YouTube octopus punching fish. It's pretty good.
So before I let you guys go, also something to look up. John Oliver just did a special on octopi.
Did he? Oh my gosh.
It's 15 minutes of pure joy because
I will watch it.
Incredible in the way he talks about things. And it's all factual. It's just like this. It's like our episode and it's just about that. And he's just you can tell his mind exploded and he can't wait to share it all with you. And he brings up this mimic octopus at one point, which is how I heard about it. And that watching his thing then took me down a rabbit hole as normal on YouTube. There is a channel that a guy just does experiments with his captive. He has small captive octopi, and he does. People can write in to ask him to do things, ask him to stage these experiments. It's so cool. He introduces two to each other that have never seen another one, and they're
it's a YouTube channel.
This whole
Can you find it whenever I'm going through mine so we can give a shout out? Yeah, because I
started to watch them daily.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you want me to go ahead
and the mimicry of the mimic octopus?
The mimicry of the mimic octopus. All right, so my second one is more of a typical aggressive mimicry definition, and it's the spider-tailed horned viper.
Whoa!
Or Pseudo Cerates urachrondoids. So this one is double creepy. So if you don't like snakes, skip ahead 5 minutes or so. Well, I guess this is the last one. Let me attempt this again. Hold on a second here. So
that's its tail. Oh my god.
Yes.
It does totally look like a spider.
That is creepy. Yeah. So it's a viper, which it looks like a typical viper. And then I'll go into the description of the tail here in a second. So, the spider-tailed horned viper is one from Western Iran. Let me take the screen share off. Here we go. It's from Western Iran, and for whatever reason, I kept finding one fact about this guy over and over again. That the species is characterized distinctly from other members of this species by a length of 16 to 17 exceedingly rough scales that stretch the distance between its horns. Okay.
So specific.
So because of that one thing, it's a completely different species. And I feel like that would be finding a family of humans all with an extra pinky toe, and suddenly they're a different species.
A new species. Yeah.
Same.
If it's not
freaking
DNA,
thing.
yeah, I don't.
I don't know. Maybe there's more to it, but that's what they just kept saying. All right. I digress. All right. The viper species is about 20 inches long in length, and like all vipers, they are venomous with hinged fangs. They're carnivores. There's nothing really special about them other than this next part. So, the aggressive mimicry of this guy, not only is he a venomous snake, which people don't like to begin with, but at the end of its tail has specialized scales that make the tip look like a spider.
It is like a double whammy, like, oh, you don't like snakes?
Also,
guess what? This one also looks like a spider.
A spider, yes. So, snakes and spiders on this thing. And a lot of snakes wiggle the end of their tail to lure in prey. However, this unique species has evolved those scales to form its own mini lure, and it's pretty convincing. I mean,
the picture for sure looks like at least an insect, if not a spider.
Yeah, it's very creepy. So this viper doesn't just lure any prey in, though. It's particularly looking to lure birds. And, yeah, and so it'll, of course, wiggle the tip, and as a bird swoops down for the bird, wham, strikes, grabs the prey before the bird even realizes what's happened.
Bird specialist. That's so rare.
It is.
Right. It's so hard to get a bird as a snake.
Yep. And the spider-tailed horned viper doesn't just go after any birds, it goes after migratory birds, which shows that maybe the local birds have wisened up to the viper's tricks, which live and learn, I guess.
Yeah, and maybe like migratory birds are more desperate, so they're like, I'll even eat a spider at this point.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying, like, imagine being like a little bird, all right, and you're just migrating. You've hit Zuganru, you're ready to go start your migration. It's hard, it's exhausting, and you're like, oh, I just need a little treat. Wham! And then you're dead.
Nature, man. Brutal.
It is rough. Which, by the way, I did put Zuganru in my script, and Kim said, Gesundheit. I'm assuming you sneeze and just hit a bunch of letters all at once.
No, Kim. Zuganru. It's what Katie and I were going to have our band. Remember? I think we...
Yeah, the band, in the first episode, yeah. Our band name. It's whenever birds get, like, the itch to migrate.
Migratory restlessness.
Yes, they just can't help themselves. They have to move. They have to move on. They just get antsy.
It definitely doesn't sound like a sneeze, though.
Zuganru, Gesundheit. So let me show that picture one more time, just because it is
I'll
insane.
have to look at the video of it later, too. Hopefully there is one, because I want to see it, like, rattling it and, like, trying to make it...
It is creepy beyond creepy.
It looks like a drawing. Like, it doesn't look like even like a photo.
It's so weird. Yeah. So anyway, that is the spider-tailed horned viper.
That is
the animal cool. I can say, and it's not a tongue twister.
Yeah. And I looked up Octalab TV.
Octalab TV. Okay.
Yep. If you want to look at some cool experiments, definitely. Some of them are like charming. Some of them you're like, whoa, so smart. He like times them to see how quickly they can solve puzzles. It's definitely worth watching. It makes me really want an octopus. And then I remind myself that I do not want anything aquatic because it's way too much work.
It is so much work. It's way too much work.
So I'll just appreciate them.
From afar. All right. I think that's our episode for tonight. A short one. About 40 minutes long.
Yeah, it's a mid-season. This isn't, we're not going to give you the whole thing. You got to keep listening.
Yeah. So we'll start season 3 up here in a few weeks. And until then, we'll be putting stuff out. Watch on social media. Hop on over to Patreon and you can see all the videos that we've been recording the last several episodes, or random episodes, I should say. And
the more people that join, we'll do some like live Q&As or things like that. It could be cool.
Yeah, that I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, if we get enough backers and we can start to do Q&As, I think that'll be really fun.
Totally.
That'll be really fun. So go support us on Patreon, and it helps us in a lot of ways so that we don't have to pay out of pocket for all of our expenses. Woohoo! All right, everybody. Until next time, we will talk to you later.
Bye.